Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I will be explaining about forge welding process. So forge welding process is like about the forging process. Here we heat the two metals which will be joined together. The heat will be above their recrystallization temperature but below their melting point. We will not melt the metals. So after heating, we place the metals one after one, that is overlapped position, and apply continuous pressure or repeated force, that is we hammer the two metals to join together, that is called forge welding. After joining, we have to do some finishing process, that is some machining process to finish the welding joints. So forge welding is a solid state welding process in which two metal pieces are joined by heating them to a high temperature. The temperature will be below their melting point. Of course, it must be below their melting point, because if we melt the metals, then we can't apply force or apply pressure on the melted metals. So we have not to melt the metals and then hammering or pressing them together to form a strong bond. So this is forge welding. So what are the common metals or materials that we can join using forge welding process? Those are wrought iron, low carbon steel, some types of tool steel, and non-ferrous metals like copper and its alloy. So these types of metals we can weld in forge welding process. So in this figure we can see a forge welding process. So what is the steps in forge welding process? So here we can see that this is one metal and this is another metal. This is yellow heated and this is also yellow heated, and we are hammering on the overlapping portion. After repeated hammering or continuous pressure, we get the perfect welding joint by using forge welding. This is very simple process in welding process. So first one is preparation to do this process. So what is preparation? Preparation is the metals which will be joined must be cleaned, the surfaces, the joining surfaces must be cleaned before we start the process. So the metal surfaces to be joined are cleaned and shaped properly. So we have to clean the surface and the shape also be proper. Next one is heating. So we have to heat the metal in a furnace. The temperature will be below their melting point and of course they are above their recrystallization temperature. The temperature usually between 900 degrees Celsius to 1300 degrees Celsius. So depending on this, on metal, if the metal is hard, the temperature will be high. If the metal is soft, the temperature will be low, but the temperature always will be below their melting point. Next one is hammering or pressing. So heated parts are placed together, that is in overlapped condition, and hammered or pressed. So by hammering or pressing, the atoms at the surfaces interdiffuse and form a welding joint. Final process is finishing. The joint is then allowed to cool and may be further shaped or cleaned, or any kind of surface finishing process is done. So these are the steps in forge welding process. So forge welding process have some advantages. So this is very simple process and no special equipment are needed. It produces very strong joint and it is useful for joining similar or some dissimilar metals also. So this is very useful, but it has some limitations. So it is difficult to control temperature precisely. So when we are heating the metals in a furnace, it is very difficult to control the temperature in a particular temperature, in a particular state. So also it is not suitable for large or modern production. So it is also not suitable for large production scale. So if we are doing forge welding, 1,000 times in a day, it is impossible. So this is suitable for very small production. So it is also limited to ductile metals only. If we want to weld brittle metals, it is very difficult or nearly impossible. Also labor intensive and slow process. So this is very slow process. So it needs more labor and more time. So what are the applications? So blacksmith tools and blades are made using this forge welding. Chains, hooks and rings are made using this forge welding. Old railway axles and wagon parts are made using this forge welding process, and different types of decorative iron works are made using this forge welding process. So this is forge welding process. So in this video I have discussed about the forge welding process. Hope this video was useful for you. Thank you for watching this video. For more updates, subscribe this channel and hit the bell icon.